There I am. Jeez. Couldn't figure out where I went to. How's everybody doing tonight? My name is Stuart Davis, Flawed Man of God. Welcome to my channel. Our channel. I am a humble parishioner at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a biblical scholar. I haven't been to seminary. I'm not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I'm here to do is talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about the Bible, talk about Christianity, and talk about a wide variety of different topics, issues, and current events, and give you my opinion on them, one that I think is reflective of your average Christian guy. I've been a Christian all my life, 42 years, non-denominational Protestant. I don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination. I'm just in the Word daily, trying to do it better each and every day. Sometimes I'll get it right. Sometimes I'll get it wrong. But no matter what, if you're hearing my voice, if you're listening to this stream, you can count on getting my honest takes on whatever it is that we're discussing. So if you are somebody who is new to the channel, if you are new to faith, or you're just interested in it, maybe you feel like something missing in your life. You've been looking things up. You've been asking questions, both to yourself, to other people. And you think that Jesus might be what's missing in your life. And you want to take that next step, but maybe you're apprehensive about it, unsure. There's some doubt, anxiety, what have you. Because, look, let's face it, it's faith. It takes a lot. It's a lot of trust involved. There's a lot of yourself that you're making vulnerable. And, you don't want to be taken advantage of. None of us do. And so that might make you hesitant. You might not be at that point yet where you're ready to dive in head first, but you still want to go. Like dip the toes in. And if you're here because you need some sort of motivation or encouragement, right? Somebody to reinforce that that feeling that you have that you need to take the next step, then hey, we'll get that out of the way right here at the beginning. You don't have to listen to anything else on this program to get to it. But if you are interested in obediently, diligently, faithfully following Christ, then you are on the right path. And the feelings that you're feeling, they're not uncommon. Even folks who were brought up Christian go through that. And it's okay. It's okay, but this decision you're going to make to accept Christ and to be a Christian is the greatest decision you can possibly make. It's a decision that won't just affect you, but it'll affect the people around you, and it might very well affect them in a great way, in a profound way, especially if they're not believers. And they become believers in part for what you do. But let's not put that on your shoulders because you clearly got enough on them as it is. Let's worry about you. I'm rooting for you. The chat's rooting for you. The people watching this show are rooting for you. All of Christianity should be rooting for you if they know what's good for them. The heavenly host is rooting for you. We're praying that you make that decision to become a Christian. We pray that your road to salvation is definitive. It might be bumpy. It's rarely anything but when you're new at something. But we want you to get there. We don't want heaven to be some sparsely populated place. God doesn't want that. We want as many people as we possibly can to show up. But it does require faith. We want you to have it. And if you didn't need anything else, then that's great. If all you needed was the encouragement, then fine. Though I would ask you to stick around, kind of get a sense for what it's all about, hanging out with folks of faith, talking about our faith and reading from the Bible. So, if you are already a Christian and you just enjoy Christian topics and discussions, welcome as well. Show's for you too. You'll find that we run this very similar to a Wednesday night study group or a Sunday school. It's all about small group. We are a small group. This stream is small. This channel, though it has many episodes now, is small. But we care about each other and we care about you. And we want to just sit around and have fun each and every night. I fire this camera up. And it's not just me here. It's you too. The show is not just me. This show is about God. So we want to hear from you. You be part of the show. I love it when the chat kind of takes control and we roll from topic to topic or thought to thought, question to question, doesn't matter. Be part of it. And we are a small enough group that if you put something in that chat, I will be sure to read it and respond to it. So let me know, what do you agree with or disagree with? Where do you think I'm right? Where do you think I'm wrong? What unique perspective, experience do you have that perhaps we haven't considered yet? Maybe you want to add on to something somebody else has said. Share your opinion. Ask questions. Might not have the answer to you. There's a likelihood I won't have the answer to your question, but we can talk about your question and maybe point you in the right direction. Maybe somebody in the chat will know. And with that said, how's everybody doing? Where's my Chiefs jersey? It's sitting around here somewhere. Look, everybody's hella mad right now because the Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl. I'm not. Now, if I said this before, I've been a Chiefs fan since before Joe Montana got there. And as proof of that, I send my son to school wearing his number 19 Montana jersey that used to be my number 19 Montana jersey. And the reason that's my earliest jersey is really because nobody cared who Christian Okoye was back in the day. The Nigerian Nightmare. Anyway, it's been a long road. It was a long road for the Chiefs. They'd had ups and downs, but never sniffed the Super Bowl win since Super Bowl 4. But now we got a quarterback. Now we got a head coach. And a very good defensive coordinator and supporting cast. And so it's a dynasty. You might like them. You might not like them. You might think that the refs are in the bag. Or maybe just everything's fallen into place the way it has to. Doesn't matter. Because I'm watching them no matter what. And I'll enjoy being part of the evil empire or whatever it is. As long as I can. I don't like having to share my spot on this bandwagon with Swifties. You think it's bad? If you don't like seeing it on television and hearing about it everywhere. Imagine being a fan. It's just like, man, I gotta align myself with these folks. Ugh, but what can you do? What can you do? Well, yesterday was just too tired to stream. Um, working working a lot of work professionally and then personally helping out with some stuff. Even tonight, we finished. Me and my son, we finally got some of our supplies together for the 3D printer, where we took a cardboard box, rolled Mylar across it, used spray adhesive on the inside of the cardboard box, covered it with Mylar, connected it back, folded it up, cut out a little place for the UV light to sit, and the turntable at the bottom. It's going to be good. Going to be good. So we're all set. We've got our respirators. We've got isopropyl alcohol is supposed to be arriving tomorrow. All we need now is a design. All right. So Alex Moore is here. Good evening, Stu. Good evening yourself, sir. Emmanuel, hello, everyone. Just got the Central Americano via road. Just look at Discord. I was pulling that up as I was doing my. It's not bad. Less potholes than, Michigan. Is that a Freightliner? Almost looks like it almost looks like a T, but a T series, but it's not. That's not a T series. That's a Freightliner, right? Anyway, now I just have to wait on customs. Yeah, well, small group, but is it small though? No, it's not small. Not small. It's big to me. It's got lots of personality. Hey, look, I'm just going by your pictures, Emmanuel. That's what I was expecting. Let's see. Post more of the adventures, please do. Yeah, guys. There's a link to the locals that I haven't checked in maybe a year or more. But if you join the locals, it'll give you the link to the Discord, and there you can be part of the group and see more adventures from Mr. Osorio as he travels through Centro Americano. Your nayeth truth. My ex was a Swiftie. Better than your present. That man, the 17 players they put on the field each play are awesome. Ah ha 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 ha, Thad. Ah, ha, 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 ha. Shut up. Line myself with a bunch of normies. Well, hey, to be any sports fan, you have to line yourself with a bunch of normies. Veritax says, I have arrived after a rough day. We sat with a genetic counselor, received all the medical history for my daughter's heart case, only to realize it's going to be the same monitoring unless they have other data points for your. I'm assuming that that's a heart condition. Sorry to hear that. I have a buddy who has got some excellent physical shape, but he has got some heart issues of his own, which seems very early in his life to be dealing with all this. But I don't think as early as your daughter is. But just to understand that medical technology, we talk about big pharma and how they push a lot of stuff, but there actually have been some good medical advancements um, in medicine to kind of help with that. And part of the things that help with that is the fact that we're living longer. It's like used to be a knee replacement was a pretty big deal. It's not anymore. Same thing with a hip replacement, or actually say hip replacements more than anything. They're very good these days. Why? Because boomers. Because boomers. They're everywhere and they're breaking everything. And so we're having to fix everything. Practice makes perfect. Oh, hang on. Let me read this first. Daughter was having a rough time. I asked her to stay home and take time to process. Went and get books, etc. Yeah. Um, it's a lot to process, but you know, give her time. Give her time to put it together. Don't perseverate on it. Enjoy. Look, I don't have that condition. I could walk out and get hit by a bus tomorrow. You don't know how much time's given to you. But you want that time that you have to be quality of life. Oh, yeah, okay. I think reliving specifically history of the day her mom died with. Yeah, I imagine so. Imagine so. Well, Veritex, by all accounts, you seem like a pretty decent guy. Probably a pretty decent dad. And I know that she knows that you care about her and that you'll be keeping an eye on her, and she's got you to lean on. If no one else, she's got you to lean on. But we're praying for you and her. To be clear, as far as the test show right now, her heart looks fine. Volume of blood, respect depression, or in teen years, something we will be watching. Hey, look, always good to keep an eye on it. And maybe, sometimes you end up lucking out because you're paying attention to that, where somebody else who's a ticking time bomb does not. I say that, I mean, my cousin, I talk about my cousin who had the addiction issue. His older brother, only older by a few years, and he and I were probably the closest between cousins. And he uh he had an underlying heart condition, got strep there, wasn't feeling well, told his mom, "Hey, I'm not feeling well, I'm gonna go lay down." Didn't wake up. 29 years old, months before he turned 30. Uh that hurt us all deeply, deeply. And but we didn't know. Didn't know. All that going on, she comes asking some questions, which I can share later on Discord. Okay. All right, going back to Emmanuel, we're truly blessed to be in the U.S. When you think you're broke, trust me, you ain't. Oh yeah, yeah. Go literally anywhere else. You hear what's going on in Canada? That place is getting ready to go the way of Mexico. There's a bunch of caravans coming along there, ready for round two. Yeah, I hope they're ready to return. We complain about infrastructure in the U.S. Trust me, it isn't anything compared to Central America. Oh yeah. We are barely functional, but compared to other countries, we are a well-oiled machine. I love our highways now. It depends, man. It depends which what state you're in. Right? Some states look, if especially if the weather's fair, relatively dry, you stay out there and they're pretty good. Right? You go to other places, like I said, Michigan, Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia. Man, it's awful. right? These are major areas. It shouldn't look like this. On the ex Swifty, truthfully, I have no idea why she randomly stopped talking to me for 6 weeks, then cited things happening as the reason. Maybe she listened to a song from Taylor Swift and it made her think of you, which was never in a good way because she's always singing about exes. You should have sang all your exes live in Texas after that. That said, forwarded the tweet of the young lady. I don't see that. All I see from you, Thad, are a bunch of provocative tweets, mostly meant at upsetting me, like a pizza full of baked beans. You terrible human being. Matt Felty is here. Woohoo! It's not sarcastic either. All right. Let's see. Where are we at? Where were we at? I think we went through 10. I saw the bloodthirsty hate the blameless, upright concern for his life. So I think we will start with 11 and be on the right track. 11. A short-sighted fool always loses his temper and displays his anger, but a wise man uses self-control and holds it back. Short-sighted fool always loses his temper and displays his anger, but a wise man uses self-control and holds it back. This one's for me. This one's for me. A lot of times I wear my emotions on my sleeve. A lot of times when I'm upset, I'm upset. Um, Once I have had time to cool down, I will act more appropriately in the fact that, like I said, normally if it's somebody I work with that I have an issue with, I don't talk to them. I don't interact with them except for to do business. It's strictly business, and you can tell it in my voice that I've got no time for you. I just want to get stuff done. Let's get it done. You know, I am one who is quick to join an argument, quick to assume someone is accusing me of something, or if somebody's got an ill intention. I need to do a better job at just containing that. Do a better job of remembering myself and the example that I might be setting. Not just for my kids, but anybody who sees me. It's easy to look like a fool when you're losing your temper. And look, and there's a time for everything. There is a time to be wrathful, but it's not for trivial, mundane things that you let get upset you. And you let the other person know. Well, if it's a person that's upset you, you've let them know that they've been able to get to you if they did it on purpose. That's not to say that you can't communicate that something has upset you. Instead of flying off the handle, you can say, "Look, I don't appreciate what you did there. Elaborate if you need to. Refuse to elaborate and leave, as the meme goes. But seriously, learn some self control. Usually don't feel good afterwards. Usually feel bad for losing control. Like you've just like, man, I'm better than that. I'm old. I'm supposed to be more mature. Acting like a child. Acting like an idiot. You get caught up in the emotion instead of mastering your emotions and letting them work for you. Now you're reacting to your emotions. And a lot of times that will lead you to make foolish decisions. They started a study on this book, Disciples of Disciplines. I'm sorry. Started a study on this book, Disciplines of a Godly Man by R. Kent Hughes in our men's Sunday school. All right, let me know how it goes. My wife gave me this book to read by Philip Yancey, The Jesus I Never Knew. We'll see how it is. Pastor brought it up and read it right in, along with C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. And Thad is I didn't forget the Narnia tweets. I read Narnia in order. I didn't like your tone. And because I'm mastering my emotions, I'm not getting mad about it. Veritex, I need prayer because anytime a supplement book is brought, I have a hard time because I've seen people focus more on it than the Bible. Yeah. Yeah. In the last study we did, they had picked Francis Chan, and I don't think he's as bad as some people try to make him out to be. I think he's a genuinely positive guy, and I think that he seems like somebody learned in the Bible and has some pretty good takes, but he's so corny. It's hard to take. He's so corny. It's hard to take him seriously. Uh, I'm too sarcastic and cynical to really just get into Chan. So some people are critical of him because he has aligned himself sometimes with unsavory personalities. But at the same time, he's come back and said, look, I need to be better about doing some homework on the people that I share stage with. But at the same time, if what I say has merit, good that I'm there talking about it, and maybe contrast what somebody else who people shouldn't listen to is saying. So Narnia teaches a universalist theology. Narnia teaches that there's a universe and that lions are cool. Bro, watch it. I don't have a universalist theology, and I read Narnia. "12. If a ruler pays attention to lies and encourages corruption, all his officials will become wicked." Goes without saying. And if you want to talk about if you want to go to the idea of our constitutional republic. Yeah, Veritex. Our constitutional republic, we are the rulers, right? Because we're the voters. We vote for the folks in charge. So ultimately, the leaders answer to us. So if we encourage corruption by voting for people who are corrupt, everybody's going to be all the people in civil service are going to be wicked. Coincidentally, we tend to keep putting people in office who are corrupt, and we have a wicked government. Veritex, yeah. Solomon predicting the Biden cabinet. Oh, pays attention though. Yeah, that's true. But a lot of these people kind of do. They just don't care because they want what they think is right instead of what might be best. That's the ends justify the means for some folks, Matt. I need to get what I want, and that involves some corruption, then so be it. That's just politics, right? I don't know, Nirnaev. I don't know if and it's been a while since I've read it, but that is not what I got out of Narnia. Excuse me. $13. The poor man and the oppressor have this in common: the Lord gives light to the eyes of both. Sorry. Poor man and the oppressor have this in common: the Lord gives light to the eyes of both. I think I'm tracking here. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this proverb, though, because I'm a little uncertain. While y'all guys are giving me your opinion on 13, I'll read what Nirnaeth is TLDRing. Is it not rightfully unfair that this new life should be confined to people who have heard of Christ and been able to believe in him? But the truth is, God has not told us what his arrangement about the other people are. We do not know. We do know that no man can be saved except through Christ. We do not know that only those who know him can be saved through him. Mere Christianity. I think that is not so much universalism as it is C.S. Lewis humbly saying, there's a lot we don't know. And where him and I differ on what we would write here is I need to not concern myself with what's going on there. I need to just concern myself with understanding that we do know that knowing God, knowing Jesus is the path to salvation. And so the best course of action is to spread that gospel to as many people as possible, to give as many people that opportunity. And if you do that, there's less that you have to worry about well, what about so and so who didn't know, or so and so who got the gospel from Mormons? you know, what about that kid who was raised in a terrorist state, and all he knows is Islam, right? I fought against people like that. I fought against people who were uh, raised from the cradle to believe in Islam and very little Christian influence at all, if any. Right? The influence they got was who they were putting to death. And I think and I think the reason that um, Lewis struggles with it, or Lewis thinks about it, um, is because he was an atheist and he did come to God, and maybe he thought, hey, what if that never happened? I don't know. I haven't read enough of his works to really get into his mind, um, but I do think a lot of what he has to say is coming from a very humble perspective, and I think that that was kind of the driving force of the fact that he kind of lands where he does on mere Christianity. What's going on, Mr. Kane? Mordred. Definitely not Mordecai. It's going okay, buddy. I got a question. How would I answer the question of suffering? It's one that gets me stuck still to this day. All right. So what is your question about suffering? I guess. Give me more context of what you're talking about suffering. Are you talking to me about suffering in this lifetime? Are you talking about suffering in the afterlife? Like if you go to hell? What? In the last battle, Emmett, who worshipped is that Emmett? You mean Emmett, who worshipped Tash, the god who demanded human sacrifice, got into Aslan's country because of his earnestness in believing Tash was the true god. It is heretical. I gotta go back and read it. Oh, okay. Thanks, Mordred. Hold on, very good. All of life is suffering, Stu. Come on, don't we all know that? It is a tough question, Mordred. And it's one I can't say that I don't wrestle with myself. I mean, some things you can chalk up to human behavior, right? Genocides that weren't condoned by God. Genocides, murder, torture, um, child abuse, all these types of things, alcoholism, it's all man made. And if you ask, why does God allow it? I would say, as a non Calvinist, is because God has given us the choice to either accept what is right and good or not. I think a Calvinist might have a different answer to that, but it's going to be kind of along the same lines of this is the effect of sin. Now, there are other sufferings, right? Cancer, uh, dementia, there is natural disasters, hurricanes, that kind of stuff. That's where um, things get a little bit more difficult for me to kind of reason, except for um, this is a temporary life, or our existence here is temporary, right? In this form. And so whether we suffer or we are blessed, or we go through the roller coaster of life, which is good seasons and bad seasons. It's all stuff that we go through. And is there a better, bigger purpose for that? I think so, and I think that that's alluded to in Job, where God basically says, "You don't know why things happen the way they do. I do." Um, yeah, there's a lot of you need darkness to see light. You need to go through suffering to appreciate what you have. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. And so then I try to backtrack and kind of take it from a more simpler perspective of I don't know. So I'm just going to trust in God, that there is more understanding behind it, and there is a reasoning for it, because there seems to because every time I turn a corner and see something, it kind of shows me, oh, that's why such and such happens. So if we go through a pattern of behavior, there's a reason behind it. You can call it God's plan. You can call it whatever. It's life in a very complicated way playing out for everybody. Now, Matt Felty says he disagrees, which is fine. Matt Felty says, I disagree with Stuart. Nothing escapes God's providence. John Piper has helped me process the issue of suffering. Providence playlist part 2. I don't know what that part is, but Piper, very well respected. Just facilitated on the subject in my men's group last Wednesday. We talked for nearly an hour. Veritex said the sentence doesn't make sense. Yeah, but Mordred's doing the meme, right? If God real, why bad thing? So he's just talking about, and Matt, you could be right. And think it's the effect of original sin. A lot of people land there. I don't know. And thankfully, I haven't been in a position where I've been confronted with having to answer that question for my own self, or maybe somebody who asked me. So I sit back and, call it whatever, be like, does it have anything to do with my salvation? Like, does my opinion on this matter at all? It doesn't. All I got to understand, God's up there. God's watching. God's in control. I just need to do the best with what I got. Nernea said, God made everything good and is absolutely good. He is the source of good. He can do nothing else. As men, he can do whatever he wants. He will do nothing else. As men and images of God, men can do good, but not everything they do is good. Free will is the essential ingredient for men to make good. God gives us the free will and ability to do good, but we have to choose it. John Calvin has entered the chat to disagree with Nernath. But yeah, Nernath has got a very, very good take there. Right. Thad says, my take on Eden, we need suffering to become what God wants us to be. We chose suffering when we bit the fruit he wanted us to, but it had to be our choice. Veritex said that's a little like saying God provides the suffering to all of us in turn. It's not a postmodernism question that's been around during the modernity era since the late 1800s. Civil War, yeah, but it's been a common banner statement from atheism, specifically, or it's been popular from the atheists uh, in this postmodern in the postmodern form, like Reddit, right? That it's just why it's the meme. We don't think about it being thought about then because it wasn't cool or popular to be an atheist back then. Matt Felty, for my thoughts are not your thoughts. He's quoting scripture. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways. He has high ways, we got low ways. He's got friends in low places. That's us. And my thoughts are your thoughts. Isaiah 55, 8 through 9. Now, Matt Felty gets a slap on the wrist because we're almost Isaiah and he's quoting it. He's getting ahead of ourselves. We're not doing it yet, Matt. Get gun it. But also very aptly placed, Matt. I liked it. Nernath saying, for now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know, even as also I am known. Well, anybody who's been through battle or tragedy, um, significant injustice. How are you again? Why do you think God is so specifically protective of kids and very harsh towards folks who take advantage of them? Because you're abused as a kid, especially if you're abused by a member of the church. How do you reconcile that? It makes it much more difficult to reconcile. How do you say that? Does God care? God let me go through this, and it's awful. And it is hard to watch a kid who is going through an illness like you see in the St. Jude commercials. But it's even worse when you see a kid and you know that they've been abused in a way that messes their head up and damages their spirit. And a lot of times kids that are sick, they put on a brave face and they are brave, but they're also scared. Their hopes are they keep their hopes high and stuff like that. Kid who's been abused, they're beaten. They look up and see that God entrusted them with somebody in their life who would treat them that way. Near Nath saying, "Well, we all think. I don't know how to reconcile it, but I know that people who do stuff like that pair well with wood chippers." Bingo. Question as old as Job, honestly. Yeah, maybe older. I mean, Job happens. Let's go back to the timeline. Job happens between Noah and Abraham. So, good question. Mordred said, gee, now I'm depressed. I only have myself and Stu to blame. What are you bringing me into this? You asked me to daggone question. On the lighter note is, look, greener pastures on the horizon. At the very end, we've won the war. Just fighting battles. We've won the war. You'll go through different seasons in life. Some will be terrible. You might not go through a really good season ever until the very end, and it's the best season. But Seth was after Noah. Man. Look, I was just taking it to the logical conclusion. Yep, you're right. You're right. Thank you, Nernath. Yep. All right, yeah. I get it. I was wrong. It happens often. Where was it earlier? Oh, there it is. Veritex said Piper has had some great sermons, but the exhaustive determinism position is unnecessary to understand the Bible. Speaking of the Bible, did anybody come up with an idea on 13? Veritex said, as I got in a debate on X about some think Job was just a long form Jewish parable and Job wasn't a real person. There's a lot of people who believe that. I don't. I believe Job was real. No reason to think that he wouldn't exist. God's got no reason to make him up, to be honest with you. The poor man and the oppressor have this in common. The Lord gives light to the eyes of both. There you go, Nernath. I was getting ready to say it. God lets good people and bad people's eyes work. Another, it rains on the just and the unjust type verse. Or God created both of them. He gives light to the eyes of both. I read that as life, right? He gives light in your eyes, life. 13 says basically the same thing. God is the creator of both of them. To be honest with you, I think what that really points to is that ultimately they're both going to have to answer to God. God gives free will for them to do good or evil. Man, no reformed bros in here tonight. That's for sure. You're going to have to be having a field day. Sight both physical and spiritual. Yeah. Also implies that the oppressor cannot hide from the light. Ooh. Yeah. Good takes here, all of it. And there's wisdom in each of those ways that you guys mentioned. 14. If a king faithfully and truthfully judges the poor, his throne shall be established forever. All right, yes, because we've seen that. We've seen God make that promise several times. Several times. God tells the king, look, you do the right thing. You do what I told you to. You listen to what I had Moses write down and instruct you guys. I will establish your kingdom forever, ever. And Nerneus said, because God will provide them an army of hobos right off the train. To me, Mordred, Christian Twitter, and the only reason I got a Twitter account was for this show, to get exposure and network. And I have had some luck on the networking side. Christian Mario I met through there. Hans Feeney I was able to talk to. Keith Foskey I connected with through Twitter. Shay Thaddeus through Twitter. All of them have been on this show. The other Paul, you can't forget him, through this show or through Twitter. But the first thing that struck me about about Christian Twitter, is that everybody is fighting. It is toxic. It is a circular firing squad. And there are times where the waters of Christian Twitter are calm, but I feel like that's just the eye of the storm. And you can get some. Here are the ones. So they're kind of outside of Christian Twitter because they're not Christians, but they're in and out. Is the deconstructionists, right? The ones that say that, like, new evangelicals. I can't even remember the lady's name. She used to go to John MacArthur's church, and you know that because it's been years since, but that's still her identity. She's still carrying that mattress around with her. You know, these folks who, like, they've made the Bible into whatever they want it to be. And they think that everybody else is an oppressor. Everybody else is out to get people. They're basically Episcopalians or atheists. No, not her. She's the one who's always reporting on MacArthur, but that's another lady, and I can't remember her name. She tried. It was funny. She tried to big league Christian Mario one time when Mario left a comment, and she just got absolutely ratioed over it because Christian Twitter's rough, and I thought that was funny. The fruits of the deconstructionists is atheism. Their followers are largely atheists with no interest in becoming Christian. They're just glad to see somebody who will affirm their degeneracy and be like, yeah. More Christians should be okay with the things we do. The more Christians should say the things that we do are good and acceptable. Ugh. And then everything else is political. It's almost purely political at this point. I don't think it's her, the lady she reported on. I think it's somebody else. Because this person, from what I understand, the lady she reported on wanted to be more private. This lady wants to tell everybody. And I think I don't know. I'm not gonna get any more into that, but we've exchanged words. She's a very small, petty, spiteful woman, and her problem is with John MacArthur and God. And I'm sorry, she said she can just accept that, maybe she wasn't in a good church. I don't know JMX Church. I don't know. I know that there's a lot of people who hang on his every word as if he was Jesus himself. And I think sometimes that he steps in it when he gets off of religious topics, like when he's talking about mental illness or ADHD. As part of somebody who has ADHD, his his understanding of it is incredibly stupid. And there's no, I guess I should be more charitable and say it's very ignorant, but he has no interest in learning about it. It's the evangelical Pope, Baptist Pope. So there's those. Then there's the Roman Catholics, the trad Caths. That's basically, it's the one true church. Everybody else is a heretic, and everybody else is a heretic is a recurring theme throughout all these folks. And then you've got the Ortho Bros, and most of them, their only exposure to orthodoxy is listening to Jay Dyer and posting about it on Twitter or whatever other message board they get on or social media platform they're on. They don't belong to an Orthodox parish. They've never even been a catechumen. Yex are who we haven't seen in the chat for a little bit, but he's our boy, part of our group. Much better example of a honest, calm, collected member of the Orthodoxy. Those are the kind of people. Him, Shay Thaddeus. We're gonna get Christian Mario coming on. We almost had Mario on last week to talk about his decision to become Orthodox, but I haven't lined that schedule up yet. He's willing to come on. He's a friend of the show. And so the Orthodox, they don't know. They're not part of the Orthodoxy. Their attitudes would be much different if they were. But they're like, oh no, Catholics have a crazy pope, and everybody else is a schismatic from that. And no, they look at stuff like that lady preaching at Trump last week, and they're like, that's what Protestants believe, right? And they leave it at that. Now, within all of these, there are good arguments to establish why they believe what they believe and to rationally arrive at the conclusion that this is what Christianity is supposed to be. This is the true church. And not just for them, but the other group that I get in there is the Reformed group. Cage Stage Calvinists, mostly. And they are rough as well. It's almost like Godwin's wall. Everyone that you disagree with or that disagrees with the Calvinist is an Arminian, not an Armenian, an Arminian. And they're all heretics. And the same with the Orthodox. Everybody else is a heretic. You got Pope who's a heretic, or you have Sola Scriptura, and you're a heretic because they don't believe that's true at all. The funny thing is, though, when you sit these folks down and you have them talk about what they believe, when you have them talk, they share way more in common than they disagree on. The big roadblocks for them is icons, authority of the Pope. This is between all of them. icons, the authority of the Pope, the free will debate, infant versus credo baptism, and the Eucharist. Those are the ones where there's 5 points, and you can talk to them about they believe in the Trinity. So everybody seems to have difficulty articulating the what the Trinity is. If you're charitable, you understand, and humble, you understand it's a difficult concept. Just understand that God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit are part of the Trinity, and it is a real thing. Boom. Let me read some. Let me scroll back up here. Mordred got me off topic again. That's fine. Nernes said, "Now you know why Gustavus Adolphus and Charles the 12th fought them." Perchance, what? The Catholics are boring. Actually, they almost never bring real scripture to the argument. I've seen them do it. The other Paul, in fact, they had a Twitter space, and I'd listen to it because Paul was one of the speakers, and he's a buddy of mine, so I like to see how he did. They were talking about the argument of real presence and transubstantiation in John 6. And it was very good. It's just very good listening to everybody bring their and I didn't get to hear the debate in full, but everybody giving their introductions. Minus one whiny person on there. Everybody was very good at expressing their points respectfully and considering everybody who disagreed with them still as comrades in Christ. Mordred said, "My older brothers and sisters are fighting over who is daddy's favorite, and it pisses me off." Yeah. Nancy, more seriously, I actually like most Catholics if I can talk with them in person. Yeah, basically. And I think that's the case with all of these folks, though I feel like sometimes some reformed can get into a feedback loop more quickly than others, but they're good people. Wait, no, they're not. There's no good people. If you're talking to a Calvinist. Mordred said they deny scripture more than they swear by it. Not every Catholic, but most on Twitter. I think it's less that they deny it so much as they have dogmas attached to it and different teachings attached to it as part of their catechism that make it that make it sound like something that maybe us who aren't catechized or aren't in that group, we wouldn't get through it. They've got other books in there, I think, that also kind of shape that difference. But a lot of times, what you'll hear with them, oh, so support, oh, every man's a pope, whatever. They normally just get stuck on that. The two guys I talk to offline most about, when I say offline, off Twitter, two most is Raph, who's been on this show, and Chaco. I talk to them almost every single day about faith, and I am the only Protestant in that trio. And they are both deeply, deeply God-fearing people. And there's a lot of scripture discussed. But like you said, not every single one. And I think that's a good, important distinction that we should all make about all of this. Matt Felty says determination of a view as unnecessary in 50 years of ministry and reach you, and I don't know the needs of his flock then and now. Oh, you're talking in bear tags. Nerdy, said Twitter is the problem with religious discussion. Everyone is there to fight for the most part. I hate it. I hate what it does. The stupid fight going on now between Orthodox and evangelicals. I talked about that one already last week. I read that one from Veritags. It is an oxymoron, Mordred. Matt says, I don't X anymore. You mean you don't tweet anymore? And my feed would be drastically different than y'all's if and when I return. That's probably a good thing. Matt says, it's like y'all have a feed of pimple poppers and then complain of getting grossed out. I don't understand. Maybe it's just the place you vent frustrations, and I can understand that. I think some people that is. I think other people legitimately need to touch grass and get out. Get outside and get into church. Wait, not touch grass, touch pew, touch scripture, touch Bible. Nirnaya said, I think Orthodoxy is very interesting. There's a local Orthodox church that has an intro class I've been curious about. Let's know how it goes. You might be interested. Yex is a relatively new Orthodox guy. Thaddeus is great to follow on Twitter with Orthodox kind of takes that are very charitable. And like I said, when Mario comes on here to tell us why he decided to become Orthodox, which I felt like that's where I always kind of was going to guess that he was going to go if I had to. Fairtex, lately it's been Antioch Moscow Reform versus whatever you call the other masculine. Oh, the Antioch Concord or whatever. I didn't even read that. The Turks work very hard to get rid of Armenians. Anyone have any thoughts on Pentecostal? Weird. Very weird. Their take on tongues is wrong. They oftentimes allow women pastors. There's a lot of prophesying in Pentecostal churches that who knows what level of accuracy they had. I'm assuming it's mostly nothing. And a lot of that Pentecostal feeling has been is existing in churches like the Hillsong Group or Bethel. Bethel's a great kind of mega church to compare to Pentecostal or to liken to Pentecostal. It's weird. I've been to a Pentecostal church service before. I didn't know that's what it was until after the place. It was insane. It felt like I was in a circus. And that's as a non-denominational Christian. So that's a low church Protestant going into a Pentecostal church. Felt like a carnival. I thought the pastor was blind. He was looking at the wall the whole time. He wasn't. Which flavor, the slaying, the spirit, and hooting, or the we still think miracles happen in the worship is an emotional experience? I don't see indulgences really brought up though. Like if you can talk to them about it, you might get an answer out of them, but most Catholics I think don't think indulgences was good. But they can tell you why it was practiced in good faith. And they say the former are weird, the second are fine until they cross the line into the first category. Too much touchy-feely for my taste, but if they have the basic doctrines right, the rest of the Pentecostal, they have no doctrine. Speaking of tongues, I've been wondering if the gift of tongues isn't in the speaker, but in the receiver. Okay, so I have a personal account of this. So, very close friend of mine, his wife, who I'm also close friends with, she actually, in my opinion, in her, she deeply believes this, was given the gift of tongues. She did mission work down in Honduras, and she didn't know a lick of Spanish, and she prayed about it. This woman was trying to talk to her, and if you've ever been to a mission trip to Mexico or down South America or Central America, you understand. You don't need to speak the language down there. You know, you're helping out. You've got people guiding you around. I've never done it, but even I know that. Anyway, this lady in Honduras, I think it was Honduras, was trying to tell her something, and it seemed very, very important that she needed to understand this. So she started praying right there that God help me understand what this lady is trying to tell me. And almost immediately she started understanding Spanish, and she can speak Spanish pretty fluently. Period. So I'm not a cessationist, but it is not gobbledygook. It's not gibberish. It's but in that case, it would be the speaker. Elvis Presley was Pentecostal. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Oh, Matt felt I said, y'all vent here on stream. I so miss whatever positive. You don't talk much about the brief mention of a good space tonight. I thought, well, I'm going to blame Mordred because he was talking about bad things happening. There's good to talk about. The good in this, which is, stop it, Nerdane. Bring that stuff on my show. The good in this is like what I was saying earlier. If you get these folks out from online, if you put them together in a Bible study, you will find that they come together much more than they do online. Well, it's my belief that you will see these folks find genuine fellowship with each other. And yeah, there might be a hot topic. One of those 5 things might be a hot topic to discuss. But the Protestants believe this, which is always a minefield of wrong. Orthodoxy believes this. Catholics worship this. It's like you haven't sat down and actually had a talk with somebody who is knowledgeable about what they were firmly and a firm and good cohesive grasp on their faith and their denomination. And you, with anything approaching a good attitude. But when you do, and kind of like this is what I've found, you get along a lot better. That's kind of why I like this space, and I want it to be diverse. I do wish we had a reformed bro on here. You know, we've got a Catholic kind of with I think MR is MR the Catholic here. Raph, I talked to Raph a lot. And Chaco, those are my Catholic influences. But you know, when Yex gets on here and gets the Orthodox, I always want to hear his take on things. I like hearing that's just like I like hearing from Nico, from the kind of the new Christian, and before that when he was not a Christian and just interested. I like hearing what what takes they have, where we can really find out where our differences lie. Because right now, so far, we don't have a whole lot at all. Hot topic. What are you, 40 now, Nernath? All right, let's get through 15 and call it a night, all right? The rod and reproof, godly instruction, give wisdom. But a child who gets his own way brings shame to his mother. If you didn't understand the first part, let's read the ESV. Oh, wait. It's the same. We're right there, kind of in that spare the rod, spoil the child. Consequences. Punishment. This is a child rearing version of what we've talked about throughout Proverbs. Correction, instruction, rebuke, to teach, prudence, discernment, wisdom, knowledge, equal righteousness. Children are impressionable. And it's good to get them started along the right path. What are we trying to do? We're trying to set kids up for success. It doesn't guarantee success, but it gives them the best chance. You know, well, I won't teach them anything. They're not going to listen. They're going to rebel, and if they come back, they're going to come back on their own. That might be true, but they might come back more quickly because they realize that you were right. Like, how often have you said about how your parents were right about a lot of the things they told you? $15 to $18 are grouped on parenting. All right, good. Because what we'll probably do, Matt, is just reread this one. We want to set up folks that they're reminded, oh yeah, I learned that in church. Or I remember church was a place that I could go when I was in trouble. You remember the things. And lots of people do come back. It's not uncommon to see a person be the prodigal son in a very blatant, in a very overt example. They left the church and they left faith because they wanted to go do their own thing, and then they realized how empty it is when they've run out of all the good times and the good feelings, and they're like, man, I miss being home. And they come back. But they came back. Maybe if you come across as my parents didn't care enough about it to send me there, why do I care? Don't know. Or you just might keep them in the church like me. I mean, I left church, but I never left faith. I left church because I thought that there was something wrong with, I had a bad church experience, and I thought there was something wrong with church. But I liked small group. I like getting together in fellowship. I wanted to talk about God. I wanted to be around fellow believers. But the organization style got hard. I had mistrust. But I realized when I started going back to church how important it was. So now I tell people it's important. Get your butt in church. All right. With that said, and we'll go back over 15 later. Matt Felty, Nernaeth, Mordred, Kane, their attacks. I think I said Nernaeth, but if I didn't, Nernaeth. Lots of discussion tonight. That's good. It's good. Thad the man. Emmanuel Osorio and Alex Moore. And that's the crew in the chat tonight. I had to process that I was flawed in that respect, Matt. And I needed somebody to help rein me in. Oh, and Carl at the very last minute, not to be forgotten. Carl, we know and love. In the during the chat at the very end. Guys, thank you guys for being part of the chat. I say guys because it was just the guys with us tonight. Thank you for being part of the chat. I really care about you guys enough that I appreciate what you guys do. At least lots of conversation. Lots of conversation. It does count, Nernath. It's my show. I count it. Lots of off-topic discussion, but we're all still on topic. You guys are great. And we have some different opinions. Who cares? They're all good opinions. Except for Thad's opinion on pizza. Sending me tweets. But you guys are great. And I appreciate you. You know it, but I'm not going to stop saying it. To everybody who is not in the chat, but listening, look, again, open invitation, open encouragement. Get in the chat. I want to hear from you guys. But I understand you might not be able to comment. You might not want to comment. You're like, I don't want that weirdo's attention. I just want to listen to what he has to say. I am glad that you have found a place that you just come back and listen to the word, right? And it's good. I enjoy it. For everybody who is catching me on replay, thank you for watching. I'm sorry I missed you. I hope to catch you live sometime soon. Everybody, have a good night, and God bless.